everyone, it's Dianne at Minerva. I hope you're all doing really well this week. And today I'm going to share a make with you for a jacket. Now it's by Sewalong and it's the Harriet Jacket. So it's this one. As you can see, it's really smart. What we're going to be using is a Minerva exclusive linen viscose blend. It's this one right here. It's beautiful colours and it's called Dynamic Brushstrokes. Really gorgeous shades of blue and a lovely pop of pink. So wash and prepare that fabric before we begin. And when you've done that, check your sizing with the tape measure with the sizing on the pattern. Now we're ready to go and begin cutting our pattern pieces. So let's do that together now. So here are our pieces for our jacket. So this is the front. You're going to cut one main pair in your main fabric and make a note of all your markings. And this is your back. Again, you're going to cut one main pair. Note your markings. And the straight grain is this way. Here is the sleeve. You're going to cut one pair in fabric. This is straight grain. Also make a note of your dart here. This is the front facing. Cut one pair in your main fabric and also one pair in interfacing. Here is your back neck facing. You're going to cut one in fabric and one in interfacing. This is your straight grain. Here is your under collar. Cut one pair in fabric and also a pair in interfacing. And this is your top collar. You're going to cut one in your main fabric and one in interfacing. Now we have our lining pieces. So these are the sleeves. So cut one pair in lining. Note your darts here. This is your back lining. Cut one main pair in lining. The straight grain is this way. And your front. Cut one pair in lining. Now we're ready to begin making our jacket. So first of all, you want to wind half of your thread onto your machine spool and also check your machine needle. Now I'm using a size 80 today. You may wish to test this on a piece of scrap before we get started. And then when you've done that, we're going to fuse all our interfacing to our jacket pieces that require it. So let's do that first of all before we begin sewing. Now you're going to take your under collar pieces, that's this piece, and we're going to join it together at the centre back here. Now it's a 1 centimetre seam at this point, but around the other edges it will be 6 millimetres. It's 1 centimetre seams at the other points unless specified. So neck and collar, there are places where it will be 6 millimetre and I'll let you know where. So 1 centimetre for this back neck point here. It is also clearer to see because on your pattern pieces you do have the dotted line indicating the seam line. Now we're going to place our top collar on top of our under collar pieces with right sides facing like this. We're going to stitch either side and also along this top line here. Now trim across your corners like this and we're going to turn the collar the right way out. When you've done that, we're going to give it a press. At this point you can understitch your seam to your under collar. So press the seam towards the under collar and we're stitching it a few millimetres away from the seam of the collar here. Now we won't be able to get right into the corner, but just get as far as you can, then along the top line and down the other side. So you'll have to stop in a couple of places and reinforce, but this will just stop the under collar from rolling out to the outside. Now we're sewing our bust darts in our front pieces, so we're bringing our two marks together at the side here with right sides facing and we're working towards our point. So we want to come off at a gradual V, run off this end, let your thread run free so that we can knot it down towards the point. You might want to also make your stitch a little smaller to do this. Repeat on the other side and press that dart down towards the bottom of the jacket. With right sides facing, place your two back pieces together like this. We're going to stitch the centre back seam with a 1 centimetre seam. Then we're going to press it open and flat. Next we're going to place our front pieces on top of our back piece like this, right sides facing. We're going to pin it down the side seams like this and stitch with a 1 centimetre seam each side. Then when we've done this, we're going to pin our shoulders and stitch this seam in place also. Each seam needs to be pressed open once it's completed. The shoulder seam. Now you're going to pin your collar to your body like this. So the under collar, where your seam is, you can match up the centre back seam here. Then we have notches here and here. Match those up with your shoulder seam. And then we also have a notch at the front here, look. And we want to line up the edge of the collar with that. And pin the rest of it in place. On a large stitch, sew a line of ease-stitching around the top curve of your sleeve. This will make it easier to insert it into your armhole. You can pull on the stitches a little after you've done this. Then we're going to create our dart on our sleeve. Bring your markings together with right sides facing and you're working towards the point again. Run off at a gradual point, notch your threads and then press the dart flat. Repeat these steps on both sleeves. Now pin your underarm seam like this, matching the notches. Sew with a 1 centimetre seam allowance. Now we're going to set in our sleeve. So turn your jacket the wrong way around and both of your sleeves the right way around like this. Now you have 1 notch here and 2 notches here. So you want to make sure that your notches line up on your jacket. You're going to place the sleeve inside the armhole like this. Match the underarm point. So we have our seams here and here. Pin those in place so that they line up. Your 1 notch here. And your 2 notches to the back here. Then the remaining notch to the shoulder seam. Now when you've done that, you can pull on those ease stitches a little and finish pinning the sleeve the remainder of the way. When you've done that, we're going to stitch it in place. Sew your sleeves in place with a 1 centimetre seam. Now with right sides facing, place your front facings on your back facing like this, and we're going to pin it at the shoulder seam. Next, sew the seam in position here with a 1 centimetre seam. Now we're going to pin our facing to our jacket, so we want to match the centre back point here. These points here at the shoulders, and also make sure that this notch lines up again here. Pin it all the way down the front. Now what we're going to do when we start is this here hem at the bottom is going to be stitched to match up with this notch here. We're going to stitch down here and then across, and the reason we're doing that, I will show you. I've just done the other side just to explain it a little bit better. When you turn it through, you will get this nice flat corner here, and the hem will be turned up to the inside like this. So we're going to have our lining here. If you're not using a lining, you can edge finish all these raw edges, but these will be hidden because we're using a lining today. And on the outside it looks like this, and on the inside you have this little seam here. So that is why we need to join this part to the facing here and then pivot and come around this corner. You can snip into it a little bit as well to release it. Then we're going to stitch all the way up the front, around the neck and down the other side. So let's do that now. Now press your facing to your jacket, and then when you've done that, open it up like this, and again you're going to press the seam towards the facing on the inside and do a line of understitching just to keep that facing from rolling outwards. Do this part of the way up. You don't need to go all the way into the collar because this bit folds back when you're wearing it, so you could do it to about here. So you may want to try it on and mark with a pin. Now sew your lining pieces together for your main body. Now you're going to do this the same way that you did on the rest of your jacket. So the centre back seam of the lining. Stitch the top of your back pieces again at this second marking down to here to create the tuck. Place lining front on top of back, right sides facing, and sew your side seams and your shoulder seams. Prepare your sleeves in the same way, adding in the dart, sewing round the cap of the sleeve. On one of your sleeves you want to leave a small opening like this between these two notches. It's up to you which sleeve you do this on. This is just so that we have an opening to turn the jacket through in a moment. Set your sleeves into your lining the same way that you did your main fabric. Now you're going to pin your lining to your jacket like this, so lining up the centre back with the centre back of the back facing here, the shoulder points, the notches down the front facing on the lining. When you get to the bottom, make sure that you leave a little amount here because there's going to be a tuck in the lining. So make sure that you match this notch, and then when you pin it along the bottom that you match it with this notch here. So there's going to be some excess just sticking out a little bit there where your tuck's going to go. We'll deal with that in a moment. Now we're going to sew it all the way around. We're going to add our sleeves to the lining after we've done this. So stitch all this in place first of all, then we can turn it through. Check that your sleeves are lying straight before you attach those to the lining. So stitch this in position. Now at this point, turn your jacket the right way and push the sleeves down the arms just to make sure that they're straight. And then grab them at the bottom like this and secure with a pin. When you've done that, you can turn it back to the wrong side and sew around your sleeve, and then you know that you've got it straight and flat. Don't forget to close the hole on the inside of your sleeve. Now give your jacket a press, but you will need to make sure that at the bottom here, where you have your little tuck of your lining, that you put a few stitches here just to secure it at this point. And then when you press it, this overlaps a little at the bottom. Now at this point, we're going to add on our buttonholes and buttons. So I've marked for my buttonholes here. Now on the pattern piece it's showing the buttonholes going across, or rather on the diagram it's showing them going across, and on the pattern piece they are going straight down. So that is up to you, that's your personal preference. I'm going to do them going across like this because that's what they're like on the diagram, and I do think it looks better that way on a jacket. So that's how I'm going to do mine, and then it's matching the image on the pattern cover here. So create your buttonholes, check your manual before you begin, and then we're going to add on our buttons. Now we're going to add on our buttons. So what I do is I fasten up one, so I put the first one on, fasten it up, and then mark the next one. And I find if you do it this way, it keeps it nice and flat. So here is the finished jacket. I've got it fastened up. I'll show you it unfastened in a moment. Now, if you were going to be wearing this open a lot and you don't think you'll be fastening it up to the neck, you could choose to omit this buttonhole here and this button if that's not for you. Well, I hope you've enjoyed sewing along with me today. I've enjoyed making this jacket. I think it's a really smart make. It would be great for a special occasion. You could pair it with a skirt or trousers to make it into a suit, or you could make it in a more casual fabric like a twill or a denim, something for weekdays. It's a really simple design but really effective. Please let us know in the comments below if you've made this jacket before, and remember to include any photographs because we love to see what you've been making. And of course you can get 10% off all your orders if you join the Minerva Craft Club. We'd also love it if you create a free account to join in with our wonderful worldwide sewing community. It's good fun and a great way to gain inspiration for your next make. That's all from me for today, but I hope to be back soon with more sewing for you. If you like what I'm wearing today, I will include it in the description below. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.